Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. Dear God, what a night that was. As equally bad as it was equally brilliant. A late bit of drama from a lad who probably should have been in bed by the time he actually netted. There's a million and one things to talk about. There's the transfer latest as well. There's Arsenal and that small matter on Super Sunday. I'm joined as ever by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And David, we're just going to get straight into this as I throw a loaded grenade your way. How the hell are you summing that up last night?
Yeah, tough to do that. Very, very mad game. I think kind of a lot of the elements in the performance and the game itself kind of went as you would have expected, really, in that kind of crazy atmosphere and very physical football from the opposition and making it really difficult for Liverpool, and Liverpool therefore not playing really well. But I guess at the end of it, if you can somehow come away with a win and to do it in those sort of dramatic circumstances, then you've got to take the positives from that. And so, the mentality and the quality of the goals, by the way, were the huge positives from the night. I think that's probably where it starts and finishes, to be honest, because it was a really, really tricky evening. But yeah, I think for Liverpool to come out with 6 from 6, two tough games out of the way, because I think Bournemouth's a really tricky one first up as well. And then going into that Arsenal game with the 6 points on board, it just feels so much better, doesn't it? Feels so much more positive and feels pretty good that they're going back to Anfield now as well. And this game, maybe you're best to kind of take it in isolation because of everything it was built up as, almost like Newcastle's World Cup final. And, I'm not kind of slagging them off for that in a way, because I think, football's about that. You got to tell yourself a story sometimes. You got to build the narrative up to create those special atmospheres that can get you a result. And the fact that Liverpool weathered that is a real positive. But I almost think, you wonder whether the narrative Newcastle built up around it actually kind of brought some negatives for them, by the way, in terms of the injuries they sustained, the red card. You've got your co-owner tweeting something like, get into them or something. I just think, that then maybe it's gone a little bit too far, and maybe that cost Newcastle in the end, and Liverpool showed cool heads at the right moments to get over the line. But as I say, wasn't through a vintage performance by any means.
I mean, we'll talk about players, but we should always look at some positives, and we're kind of stretching a bit with a few of them. But, I mean, the first half and the second half were largely awful, but the goals were nice, weren't they? Especially the last one. There's a lovely team move there. Those were the little bits of isolated quality when bits of football did actually break out.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I just think all the goals, you look at the build-up and the amount of passes played in the build-up to them, they were really, really well worked. I mean, the frustration was that Liverpool just did not do that enough. I mean, it showed that they were capable of kind of quieting Newcastle down a little bit with some long passages of play, taking the sting out of the game and creating moments of threat. But I think Slot kind of summed it up in his post-match, really. He kind of said, didn't he, that, he felt like the final pass was a little bit rushed sometimes from the forwards, and they were just a bit too eager. And, they'd shown real patience in the build-up to those moments. So that was quite frustrating. It just showed that they could do it. But that's why the goals kind of felt like they came completely out of the blue. I mean, Liverpool take 5 shots and get 4 on target, score 3 goals. Now, that's not a sustainable route to winning games with or scoring 3 goals, definitely not. So they have to do better in that regard. But obviously, on this occasion, it was enough. And like I say, maybe you take it in isolation, a very, very special case with the Isak saga and the hatred that Newcastle were maybe showing in the build-up. Maybe you just got to take it for what it is and say, we got out of there with the 3 points somehow. But I don't think the manager will treat it like that, and I think he will be disappointed by several elements of the performance, and he will be telling the players about that over the course of the week.
Yeah, especially because you'd have thought over the course of the week building up to it, and they had more than a week, of course, building up to this. We knew what Newcastle were going to do. We knew what they were going to play like. We knew it was going to be one of the most physical games they're going to play all season. There wasn't actually any surprises with what came, was there?
No, this is it. But the problem is whether you know they're going to do it or not. Can Liverpool deal with it? And I think one of the big question marks I had going into this match is kind of how different is the team from last season to prevent that happening again? Because for me, the big lessons of the season really came in that League Cup final and against PSG, where And probably Everton as well, actually. Everton away, where Liverpool were just physically bullied for 90 minutes and it turned the game into kind of a flip of a coin. They weren't able to stamp their footballing quality on the match, and therefore you give a side that isn't quite on your level the ability to get to your level and to drag you down to theirs and get results out of it. So, one of the things I thought Liverpool would do this summer is maybe add a bit more physicality through the spine of the team. Obviously, that hasn't happened at all. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe the plan here is to go to somewhere like Newcastle and not match them physically. You accept that trade-off, but you've added more footballing quality and you can just dominate them with the ball more. But unfortunately, that didn't happen either. So you just got the same game as the League Cup final and Liverpool getting bullied again. And I have to say that is a little bit of a concern. There aren't many teams that can do that to you. You've got to have talent throughout the team. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to have a team of groks, really, which Newcastle very much do, with quality in there as well, by the way. I'm not completely doing them down. They are a very good side. They're a Champions League team. But yeah, I thought Liverpool would have shown that they kind of learned and are better at dealing with that. And I know the end result was better, so I sound like I'm being completely miserable. But Liverpool just don't look any better at dealing with that. And I think, you think about Everton away, you think about if you come up against PSG with that man-to-man, and how physical they can be alongside being absolutely brilliant at football. Yeah. And I'd say that's a little bit of a concern. Maybe it just takes time. And this team's just got to find its rhythm, and then they will be able to take the long balls out of the game by just keeping the ball on the deck once you've got a bit more rhythm. But it didn't look like it at the moment. And in fact, to me, kind of looks like this team has got worse in terms of physical profile than last season, in fact. You've had a Kirkez who's not the tallest, albeit he's not too bad in aerial duels, actually. Quite surprised me with that so far. But you've added Wirtz into your midfield, who is very lightweight, as good as he is. It just looked, Frimpong at right back obviously didn't play yesterday, but again, he's not the biggest, not the best in the air. So it's just a little bit of a worry I've got about this team in terms of in the biggest games or in specific games. So we'll see how that plays out. And at the end of the day, I'm complaining about something that Liverpool ended up winning this game. So, maybe shouldn't go too far on that. And they did show the quality in the end, but didn't feel like one of those wins that you could probably repeat, to be honest.
Nah, special set of circumstances. And maybe, just maybe, what started it off. I mean, that Anthony Gordon red card, we saw the replay. It's just a blatant red. There's no doubt. I know there was booing in the stadium, but it's just obvious, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can't believe they were singing about it being corrupt. I mean, that's about as nailed on as it gets. I mean, look at that image. That's studs raked down the back of the calf. Incredibly high challenge. Pulls his socks down whilst doing it. So, and he comes in with force and out of control. So, just a very, very easy one for the ref. I mean, VAR's there for a reason, so you don't want to criticise too much about this, but I'm surprised he didn't give a red straight off the bat. I thought it was a pretty obvious one with how quickly he went into the challenge and Van Dijk's reaction that it was a pretty bad one. But at the end of the day, right result and the right decision reached in the end. So you just got to kind of accept that.
Yeah, and I know we always try and talk not too much about refs, but Simon Hooper was letting a lot go earlier. There's that old thing about set a marker down, and funnily enough, after about 50,000 Newcastle fouls, we got the first yellow. They're probably justified. There was that sort of sense there. Could he just have maybe put a marker down earlier to not let it build up to this and just carry on?
Well, I mean, have you ever seen anything? Again, I don't like talking about refs. I say that all the time, and then we end up talking about refs because they're just annoying in how they kind of manage games a lot of the time. I mean, I just thought it was absolutely incredible that, you see those first two early fouls, a kick in the head, and I can't even think what the other one was, but both real candidates for yellow cards. They don't get given. And then as soon as Gravenberch makes that foul, the card's coming out. It's such a class. And the thing is, with the Gravenberch one, it's not an obvious one whereby he stopped to counter, because you look at Bruno's body position when he fouls him, he's facing the other way. And the screenshots of it that's doing the rounds at the moment make it look like a much worse. They both kind of go down together, don't they, falling? And so it looks like he's hacking at him, but it's nothing like that. You just knew the card was coming out, and it just, if you set the tone like that, I mean, I wonder, I cannot believe sometimes that refs don't have a word with themselves in these situations and think, this is what this game's going to be. If I get to the half an hour mark and Liverpool have made 20 fouls to Newcastle's 2, maybe I'm getting influenced by the crowd a little bit.
Yeah.
And yet he does that straight off the bat. Just lets Newcastle get away with some physicality, and then the first sign of Liverpool making a foul, the card's out, and you just think, surely you know that your decision making around this is being influenced by what's going on around you, and it is really, really hard to suppress that. By the way, it's human nature. But you're a professional referee. You've done this so many times. Come on, let's be better than that. So it set the tone for the game, and I thought what was brilliant. And Virgil, for me, deserves a lot of credit for kind of calming Liverpool down around this, because Liverpool were fuming about it, as you would be in that situation.
Yeah,
but he was very much grabbing them all, saying, like, come on, I'll speak to the ref. Let's just not let ourselves get dragged into this, because this is what Newcastle want then. We get dragged into it. The ref makes a couple of calls that favour the home team, and then we start creating, making really bad fouls because we're tetchy about it. So I thought he was really good about that. But yeah, poorly managed and basically set the game up for the red card, which, fortunately, I guess, worked in Liverpool's favour. But I don't think he managed the game well.
Nah, you could almost see what was going to happen at some point. And fortunately, we all ended up on the right side of it. And he's right to talk about players and some positives. I mean, he's there on the edge. Hugo Ekitike, 3-3 now, eh?
Yeah, fantastic start from him. I think... I mention this every time we talk about him, but I just love how he's very quickly got used to the physicality. I mean, even in that game yesterday, which is probably as bad as it gets, I thought he did really well, fending off defenders, holding the ball. He wants to go with his back to goal and battle them off, which I didn't think he was going to be that type. And you worry coming from the Bundesliga whether he'd be adapted to that, but he's looked really, really up for battling and bringing others into play using his strength. So really enjoyed that. And I mean, the finish. I mean, we've spoken, I think, before. I've certainly talked about it on videos that I wasn't worried in the slightest about his XG underperformance last season, because he generally is a kind of level finisher. And that was just one season where it dipped for him. And I think we're seeing it now. Reversion to the mean. This kid can finish. And he's shown that in all three of his goals that he's scored so far for Liverpool. And yeah, looks like a really smart signing. Love his attitude. Love the way he brings others into play, and I love the fact he can find the back of the net, which, for me, I just think he looks, and I'm reluctant to always make this comparison, but he's come in to replace Darwin Núñez in that starting 11, and he looks a better player, and he looks better at several aspects of the game that Liverpool needed from Núñez, but they never got in the end, or never got on a consistent basis at least. So really, really impressed with him so far, and that was a big one for him yesterday.
Yeah, another in a really tough competitive Bernard Shaw as well did shine, and that finish off the inside of the post, which is great for one tall Frenchman. And then there was the performance of the second one at centre-back, Ibou Konaté. I mean, this isn't in isolation, we've got to be honest, because we've talked about this before. It's been such a bad start to the season, and last night was pretty as awful as it gets.
Yeah, he is just kind of capable of these little runs of form, isn't he? And it just doesn't, whether he's still kind of going through his pre-season a little bit, he's still trying to find his rhythm. He just doesn't look right. And I mean, I think some of the criticism has been way over the top. I mean, he's almost getting written off now as absolutely useless. And I think people are getting angry because of this Real Madrid stuff that's out there. But I would reiterate, this Real Madrid stuff is not as strong as the Trent stuff, where it's kind of guaranteed they are definitely in for him. It's just kind of noise at the moment. And we don't need to be saying, because you've got your feelings hurt by Trent, that, this guy wants out as well, he's useless. And, I think people too easily turn on players. And for me, Konaté was absolutely fantastic last season. And he's in a bit of bad form at the moment. That can happen. Liverpool could probably do with another option to be able to rotate him out when that happens. But you got to kind of stick by them a little bit more as well. And he has been poor. There's just no getting away from it. But the anger that I see online about it, or the accusations that he's not trying or whatever, I don't buy into that at all. I just think he's in a bit of a run of poor form at the moment, and I back him to get out of it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty popular in the chat panel who we would like to come in, but we will be talking about transfers.
One comment there, he was okay last season. That it's absolute nonsense. Were we watching the same games last season? I completely disagree with that comment. He was fabulous. I just think the amount of space and the difficulty Liverpool can put the centre halves in at times. He's He's a really, really top class player. And I mean, these rumours of Real Madrid being interested, by the way, in PSG, they wouldn't be around if he wasn't a really, really good footballer.
Yeah.
And he definitely is. He's just no doubt he's had a poor start to the season, but like I say, I think the criticism is over the top, really, and I'm sure he will get back to form. And when he does, people will be eating the words on him.
Fingers crossed we can revisit that. And I suppose other new boys, I want to kind of balance this with Florian Wirtz. When I was thinking about how we line up against Newcastle, I think many thought maybe he might go off the left to almost come in at times and give us that box midfield. But as a 10, he could get bullied potentially. But Arne Slot put him in there, and kind of what we thought could happen would happen. It just felt a little bit like, no criticism of the player, this was not a game for Florian Wirtz to learn as a 10, Newcastle away.
Yeah, you kind of wonder how you split on it, really. Like, do you drop him out and pull him out and protect him from this game, or maybe just shift him to the left to kind of make his job easier? Although you lose a bit of pace then. No, he's quite quick actually. That's probably not fair, but you lose Gakpo's a little bit more direct, isn't he? So I felt like Slot had the decision to make around this, or do you just keep him in and say, this is going to be horrible, you're not going to enjoy this one, but you're going to have to get used to this. You're going to have to learn. This is your kind of welcome to the Premier League moment. He's kind of a tough one like that, really. And, you left him in, and I think he had a poor game at the end of the day. I think he one shot, no chances created, wins 3 out of 10 duels. He's a far better player than that. But, we're not sitting here writing him off and saying he's not good enough and he can't do it in this league or whatever. Sometimes some players, particularly in that 10 position where it's so crowded, it's so difficult, and he's playing it at a different pace to what he's used to. It's just going to take a little bit of time, maybe. But equally, it could be that we get to next week, the Arsenal game comes around, and he's in there and he's phenomenal because it's at Anfield. Liverpool are dominant. It's not Newcastle away when they absolutely hate you and want to win so bad. So I'm not saying it's going to take months, or it could be couple of weeks' time, it just clicks, and from there we see the best of him. And I don't doubt for a second, by the way, that it will happen at some point. He's too good for it not to work out for him. But just at the moment, for quietish in the Bournemouth game, though not as bad as I think people said. Poor in this one. Let's see what happens. It's interesting. It gives the manager a decision to make going into this next one in these first sort of couple of big games. But no more than that. It's not, definitely not panic stations at the moment with him. He will come good, and I think he'll be sooner rather than later.
There's probably a discussion taking place in the dressing room where he's asking them all, like, is this what it's like every week? Like, no, it's not Newcastle away every single game. It's just this special set of circumstances. And the other sort of newer signing, but Premier League experience, Milos Kerkez. I mean, I don't think he was bad. It's never just that straight, but I don't think he does well for the Guimaraes goal particularly. And it just still seems at times you're thinking, are we getting the best out of his traits?
Yeah, you don't feel like you're seeing enough of him herring up the outside. I would agree with that. But I think kind of the judgment of his performance, as you say, I don't think he was bad. I think a lot has got tied up in him being poor for that goal, which he definitely was. Why he doesn't get a jump there and lets him kind of get climbed over. He's got to be stronger. Excuse me. And he's got to kind of, know that that's what Bruno is going to try and do to him. And he just completely turns his back. That was a poor moment of judgment from him. And he is surprisingly quite good in the air, by the way, for someone who's small. He won 7 out of 9 aerial duels last night, by the way, which is, shows you he can get up for someone who's not the biggest. So, And I thought generally down that side, he, as well as you can manage Elanga, who has just got electric pace. And if someone plays a straight ball down the outside here, you're dead if you're anyone, really. That you have to stop the pass coming because, and that's someone else's job in front of him. So, but I thought he generally kind of won his battles. It's just a big kind of blot on his copybook was around that goal, and you can't be at the scene of the crime for goals. You've got to kind of cut that out. But I think he was better than he was against Bournemouth. And I think, again, he's another one. It's taking a little bit of time to settle, but he will settle because the quality is undoubtedly there. Hopefully, we see a man of the match performance against Arsenal next up, as I'm hoping for from Wirtz. But, just a few teething problems there, and I'm sure they'll sort themselves out.
It's funny how a game at home against top of the table opposition sometimes does feel like exactly what players are looking for. We'll see about that. I mean, let's also finish with 3 real positives. I mean, he should have probably been in bed, but what a debut. Like, what a moment for this kid.
Yeah, unbelievable, really. And I mean, been writing all summer, really, that he's seen as a genuine first-team option, and they mean that. And, because they've been so blown away by what he's done in pre-season. And you just see it, don't you? I mean, it's not the goal, really, that proves it to me that they actually mean that when they say that he's an option, because it's the fact he's even brought onto the pitch, because, he hadn't used him in the Community Shield, hadn't used him against Bournemouth. I was a little bit like, well, when, is this true then? Are they actually going to use him? And yet Liverpool just thrown away a 2-goal lead against 10 men in a horrendous atmosphere to play in against a team who were just bullying everyone, experienced pros. Are you going to put a diminutive 16-year-old child on the pitch at this point? And yet he does, because he's got such faith in the quality this kid has got. And then, that faith is repaid and underline why it exists with the quality of the finish. I mean, being there is great. The composure, not even taking a touch and just banging it into the far corner. Absolutely phenomenal. And he looked delighted. Great moment for him. Great moment for his family and everyone around him. And he's just a magic young player, isn't he? And that is not going to be the last time we see him this season. That's for sure. He's going to play a big role because he's ready. He's good enough. And I've drawn the comparisons before between Sterling, Michael Owen. He's in that bracket. So if you're good enough, you're old enough. Let's see a bit more of him.
Yeah, what a finish as well. Look, brilliant moment as well when Slot tells him to suck it up, enjoy the moment, and pushes him over, and he gets that applause right at the end. Absolutely brilliant. And I mean, speaking of brilliant, he wasn't getting much help for some of his partners, but the skipper last night, 14 clearances, most passes, 7 out of 11 duels, 6 out of 9 aerial duels. And it just felt like when the ball was coming into the box from all angles, Virgil van Dijk save us was the cry, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's so good in situations like that. I mean, you don't get to kind of see that a lot, really, where he's kind of doing that kind of old school backs to the wall defending, because Liverpool's so dominant. So a lot of quality you see is, defending big spaces to stop counter attacks. The quality he's got on his feet, firing balls through the lines or whatever, or that big diagonal that he always pulls off brilliantly. But he's just such a good defender, isn't he? Some of the headers at the end, man, like the one he beats Dan Burn to so powerfully is just ridiculous. And he's just got no right to win it either. So yeah, he's just the best centre half. I think he might be the best centre half ever. I honestly think with kind of the demands that are placed on him by the modern game and everything he can do with the ball at his feet, and the fact he's just unbeatable almost. He's the best ever to do it for me, and I think that was just another game yesterday where we got to see why.
God knows what would have happened if he hadn't been there last night, but he was, and he led them through. And
just a thing as well, the leadership as well. I touched on it earlier, but I mean, you just can't kind of put a value on that as well. He's dragging the line up, kind of managing them, keeping them calm in a horrendous situation like they found themselves in. He's just got everything, hasn't he? What a joy to watch him over the last few years.
And yeah, in our last game, we had people in the chat panel saying VVD was finished and we needed a new centre half, didn't we? So here we are. And despite VVD's brilliance, this man for me was clear man of the match. He was the official man of the match as well, Dominic Szoboszlai. I mean, 4 clearances, 4 recoveries, 100% of his tackles won. As it says there, a hell of a shift at right back, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did a brilliant job, and I think it was maybe 1 or 2 hairy moments early doors. I was like, oh, this might be difficult, and then I think he kind of stopped Barnes and made him turn back twice in quick succession early in the first half, and I thought, you know what, he's going to be absolutely fine here. He got out quick. He made sure he protected down the line and got tight. And just made Barnes turn back. And I think from that point onwards, he was just kind of full of confidence and knew he could do it. He brings you such energy, but his positioning was great. I mean, some of the ones where he cuts out balls across the middle and prevents it turning into any danger. That's exactly what you want to see a fullback doing. He's, for him to have that defensive nous was really encouraging. And just worked his socks off as usual and got quality on the ball. And I have to, with Szoboszlai, he kind of feels like the whipping boy to me at times. I feel like he gets unnecessary stick relative to the qualities of his performances. He can make the odd strange decision, I'd say, from time to time. And I thought he made a couple in the Bournemouth game, didn't he? In terms of, or one in particular that led to a goal. But I still just think he's a brilliant player, and he's still very young as well. He's going to get even better, and he's just got all the tools to be absolutely world class. And to go in and do a selfless shift like that at right back, and then be so crucial to the goal as well that wins the game. It's just I think rightly the man of the match.
Isn't it wrong, though, and this is never to knock the Egyptian king, but it is wrong that Mo Salah gets the assist for that when it's really Dominic Szoboszlai, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, neither of them will be too bothered. They'll just be glad that it hit the back of the net. And I'm not sure Rio was thinking about who set it up for him or whatever. But yeah, brilliant intelligence to do that, and to, because it's a difficult chance if Szoboszlai takes that on and tries to somehow clip that kind of front post. It's it's not an easy chance, but it's an easier chance that Rio ends up with. And it's just, got his head on a kind of, on a pivot all the time, seeing where everybody is, that great awareness. And, I really like that Salah, I almost think Salah is setting that up, by the way, to do that, because he fizzes it. He doesn't, he's not trying to just gently find Szoboszlai, he's fizzing it. And I think the reason he knows he fizzes it is that Szoboszlai can do that. So, great understanding between the pair of them, and obviously brilliantly finished off. And just another great moment for Szoboszlai. And I think he's had a lot of them in a Liverpool shirt. He's, I think people are really harsh on him at times.
He was brilliant last night. And wow, to be fair, we could all do with calmer sort of last season style 3-0s, but there is excitement and plenty to talk about.